my channel. For all my old subscribers and for the new subscribers, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for not only stopping by my channel but deciding to subscribe to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about having a case opened against you on Poshmark by a buyer. So as most of us already know, as sellers on Poshmark, once we have someone purchase something from our closet, we package it, we send it out. Once the buyer receives that item, they have up to 3 days to release or to accept the item, and then Poshmark will release that cash to the seller's account. However, let's say you sell something to a buyer and it was not what the buyer saw online that you were selling, so maybe you sent something to them by accident, or the buyer just didn't feel like you disclosed everything that you could have about the item. The buyer then has the opportunity within that time frame before Poshmark releases the payment to the seller. The buyer has the option to open a case against the seller for an item that was essentially misrepresented. Once a buyer opens a case against you as a seller, Poshmark will send you an email that says XYZ, that being the buyer's name on Poshmark, has opened a case against you, and then Poshmark will give you a description of the issue that the buyer has claimed to have with the item that was shipped to them. Once that's been sent to you, Poshmark lets you know that they'll get back to you. They're reaching out to the buyer for additional information on the item, and then they will reach back out to you to let you know what's what. And sometimes the buyer will win. Sometimes the buyer will win the case, and other times the seller will win the case, because you do see a lot of, especially when you're shopping online, buyer's remorse. And sometimes buyers will open cases against sellers just because the item that they receive is just not what they want. So they will go that route as far as opening up a case against you as a seller as well. So I'll give you an example. I sold an item. It was a shirt, and the buyer got the item and she was not happy with the item. Once Poshmark received the claim from the buyer, there's a new system in Poshmark, because I've had a claim opened before, and I've been on Poshmark for 2 years, and with the initial system, Poshmark would communicate through email with both the seller and the buyer. However, with the most recent system, and I don't know how recent it is, because I don't have cases opened every week or every month against me, but and this was about a month and a half ago, give or take, when this case was opened. Poshmark does have the option now, or I think it's the only option, where once the case is opened up, it pops up almost like a messenger type of thing. So Poshmark will be the first thread, and it will say this case has been opened up by customer X because of seller Y. So Poshmark will then receive more or request more information from the buyer, and Poshmark will also request more information from the seller. Now, the new thing in the Poshmark system that they do within the app as opposed to by email is that I can see what the buyer says and the buyer can see what I say. At first, when I saw this, I was very taken aback, because I wasn't trying to have a conversation with the seller. I thought it was Poshmark that I was communicating with. Not that I had an issue with having a conversation with the buyer, but I know what the buyer's issue is, and now it's Poshmark who's in the middle to mediate it. So I was very taken aback initially when I did see the format. However, once Poshmark requested pictures from the buyer as well as me, the seller, I uploaded the pictures that I had of the item, as well as the buyer uploaded pictures that they had of the particular item that I had sold. Now, the issue with the item was that the buyer said that the colors in the shirt did not show true to what was posted online. And most of us know, especially when we're sellers, that lighting is not always the most consistent, and sometimes it's really difficult to get the exact colors to reflect on camera that is in person for the item. So everything being said, the customer posted what she had to say, or he had to say. I posted what I had to say. And then what I did realize was the customer almost felt like they wanted to come at me directly, and it didn't get out of hand or anything, but I was very caught off guard when the customer was saying that they felt like the item was misrepresented. At the end of the day, Poshmark decided that on both of our ends it was just an honest mistake, so they resolved it in favor of both myself and the customer, and then the customer got to keep the item. And in this particular case, I know that it was, you know, the customer just genuinely wanted something, and I didn't genuinely deceive the customer. So again, it was in both of our favors when all was said and done. So that's the new platform of Poshmark as far as their cases are concerned. It's just like a thread. So just like a text message thread, you'll see Poshmark's response, you'll see the person's response, and you'll see your response as a buyer. And they do still ask you to provide as much information as possible for that item, which is why I think it's great to use all 8 photo slots whenever you're posting an item, because this helps with your case just in case someone does decide that they want to open a case on Poshmark for an item that you sold to them. Initially, when I got my first case opened against me on Poshmark, I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified. I thought that Poshmark was actually gonna shut down my account, and I believe the item was actually sent back to me. I can't remember what the item was. This was in the beginning of Poshmark, and the thing that I kept hearing a lot of customers in my reviews saying, and I know in that the first case in particular, I know that the initial response from Poshmark to me via email was the customer said that the item was not as described. So just to cover my tail as a seller, as I grew on Poshmark and as I got a better handle on Poshmark, I know some people just post the bare minimum for their items, but if my customers are telling me that I need more detailed descriptions, then I'm going to give them as much information as they need. And if it's too much information, then they'll use what they need, and what they don't, then, you know, they just discard. But I would prefer to provide more information than necessary, just in case a customer is not happy with an item, or a customer has buyer's remorse and decides that they want to open a case against me on Poshmark. All that being said, with a case being opened against you, the buyer within that 3-day time frame of the money being released reaches out to Poshmark to say, hey Poshmark, the seller did not send me what was described online. Poshmark looks into it. If Poshmark feels like you as the seller did your due diligence and you posted everything that was necessary for the buyer to make the proper decision, then they will dismiss the case and your money will be deposited into your account. If they feel like you made a mistake on the end of if they feel like you made a mistake on the seller end, then they will send you the status, like the final status of your case, saying that we have decided to kind of side with the buyer, for lack of a better word, and the item will be sent back to you. And that's that. So I know that was a lot of rambling, but I do hope that it was a little bit of an explanation to what a open case is for you on Poshmark. It's not a death sentence. However, Poshmark does not want their sellers to have 5, 6, 7 cases opened against them on a monthly basis, but it does happen sometimes. I can't speak for everyone, but I have had over 2+ years on Poshmark, I've had about 3 or 4 cases opened against me. A few of those I've won, and then I've had one return that's actually come back to my address, and that was just something that was, I know, 100% on me. I accidentally sent out the wrong item to the customer, and I had no issue just kind of taking the L and saying that was, you know, my issue, not paying attention as a seller. But overall, I do love that Poshmark involves both the buyer and the seller in the process of coming to a conclusion for the case. That way no one feels like they're not being heard. Thanks again, guys, for stopping by my channel today. Thank you to all my new subscribers again, and for all my returning subscribers. I hope you found today's video helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.